Nintendo is one of the most influential, storied, and successful video game titans in the history of the medium. With several decades of genre-defining and redefining releases, it may seem daunting to lock down which of their games made the biggest splash and ripples in the industry. These 10 Nintendo games are, without a doubt, the most important ones the company has made so far. One could argue that Super Mario Bros. For the NES is the most important game ever made, thanks to what it did to revitalize the games industry following a historic crash, crafting many of the hallmarks we still rely on in 2D platformers and many games overall. The genre-defining Super Mario Bros. Connected with a generation to make Mario and Nintendo household names. Predating Super Mario Bros., Nintendo's original icon, Donkey Kong, made waves in arcades across the globe, becoming an international phenomenon. One of the first prime examples of a platformer with jumping as the main mechanic, the difficult yet enthralling gameplay of this arcade classic introduced the world to Nintendo in a big way, as well as their future mascot. Coming before Castlevania Symphony of the Night and putting the Metroid in Metroidvania, the critical darling Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo led the charge to create the blueprint for one of the most popular genres of all time. Beyond being influential for decades to come, the art, music, and journey players embark on as Samus is wonderfully iconic and pays homage to popular science fiction horror of the time. Today, the title still stands as a landmark game for the company and one worth playing. While it may not be the first entry in the series, Mario Kart 64 took what the original game did well and drove with it, establishing the series to be a multiplayer staple and the fan favorite we all know and love today. Thanks to the 4 controllers with the Nintendo 64, the social component of Mario Kart has had ripples across party-based multiplayer games since the release of this title, and the series itself, with the strong online focus found in today's Mario Kart world. Taking previous Nintendo innovations and using them to craft a more story-based adventure, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time laid the foundation for the Zelda series in 3D, and really anyone looking to make a 3D action-adventure game in this time period. Z-targeting solved some of the clunkier early growing issues of navigating combat in 3D spaces, and a well-realized world with a memorable soundtrack made the adventure of a young boy feel truly grand and timeless. There would simply be no 3D gaming as we know it today without the release of Super Mario 64. Working in camera control by calling it a camera to help conceptualize it for players, plus implementing a logic system that is still used to move, jump, and navigate digital 3D spaces was something nobody achieved on this level before 1996. To many players, thanks to just how influential Mario 64 has become, this classic is still one of the best games you can play today. While technically a partnership between Nintendo, Game Freak, and the eventual Pokémon company, Pokémon Red and Blue is easily one of the most important games ever released, igniting the craze of social, cooperative, and competitive gameplay that has connected with generation after generation. The original Pokémon titles launched what would become the most successful media franchise of all time. Red and Blue may be a simple introduction to JRPGs as a genre with 151 pocket monsters to collect, but its impact and weight is much, much more than just 2 Game Boy cartridges. Wii Sports is integral to the success the Nintendo Wii found. Coming packed in with the console, for many, this was the only game they needed to justify their purchase, including 5 sports: tennis, baseball, bowling, golf, and boxing. The iconic game sold the promise of motion controls immediately. You pick up a Wiimote, and they just work. And on paper, anyone could pick up a Wiimote, mimic the actions of these sports, and introduce a whole lot of fun to their family. When the world shut down in 2020, Tom Nook and his nephews were there to happily give the world digital debt. Animal Crossing: New Horizons could not have been released at a more opportune time. When everyone had to stay home due to the global pandemic, many looked to video games for comfort, escape, and community. What better outlet than a multiplayer Nintendo game on the incredibly popular Nintendo Switch, where you have your own island getaway to customize and make your own and invite your friends to. This release launched Animal Crossing into the stratosphere, selling better than Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Super Mario Odyssey, and turned a whole new mass of folks into gamers. Following the failure of the Wii U, many thought Nintendo were on their way to leaving the games industry in the capacity we saw them at for so long. Pairing the release of the Nintendo Switch with the launch of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild played a huge role in bringing the company back to a level they've never been able to achieve before. The fever for Breath of the Wild was so strong at launch that more copies of the game had sold than consoles that could play the game did for a period of time. Reinventing Zelda to follow in the footsteps of more open, player-directed games like Skyrim, the series found an audience nearly 3 times the size of the previous best-selling Zelda games. Even today, there are plenty of titles trying to have a Breath of the Wild moment and follow Nintendo's example. And those are just some of the most important and influential games Nintendo has released in their history. Which games do you think deserve to be on the list, and are there any that you feel get too much hype? Be sure to let us know, and as always, you can stay tuned to Game Rant for more videos like this.